I think it'd be good schools if they could sort of like teach philosophy, upbringing, um, about sexual partnerships and things like that a bit, you know, like the philosophy of relationships a bit, you know, everything really, you know, which I think is missing in our school. I think, you know, like I never had it anyway, I don't feel.
Yeah, well,
You
I
know,
think.
you have maths, you have science,
Yeah.
biology a bit, you know, whatever. French, you know, languages a bit, PE. But where's the philosophy in life, you know, which is
Yeah.
I think it's where, you know, you think about like all the children leaving school and half of them don't know what they're doing
Yeah.
about philosophy, you know, of life and things, you know,
Yeah.
because it's not there at school.
Mm.
It's missing, and you can see why things are not perfect out there in the world today, because nobody's being, you know, not many people being brought up properly to understand things, you know. Like, you know, like I say, respect, you know, you've got to learn how to respect yourself before you can respect others.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so
true.
it's funny really when you think about it, that people, when they're being rude to other people and that, you realise that they have not learnt it in a funny way, you know, they've not learnt the art of respect.
Yeah.
You know, which is a very beautiful thing, I think.
Oh, of course, yeah, respect is
if you
very
understand
important.
it, you know.
Yeah. Give respect and you should get respect, you know, that's, you know, I'm a big believer in that, mate. You should respect everyone, you know. You know.
With children, though, they're blind at them, you know, when they're born, first born, and they're sort of 3, 4, they're kind of blind and deaf in a kind of way, and you've got to teach them everything.
Oh, of course, yeah, everything, yeah.
And I think with children, it's more important really to give them as much time as you can.
Yeah.
You know, and the more time you can give to them, the better for them really. And sometimes I sort of see people and they're not being, you know, they dress their children fine, whatever, and they look quite good, but they're not. They're being a bit like nasty to them.
Okay.
You know, it's a bit like bullying in a kind of way, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I saw this couple going past a couple of weeks ago, and they had this young little girl, and she's happy playing, you know, she's nicely dressed in that, you know, she's sort of skipping along, she's only about 3, and the parents are sort of really being horrible, you know, like swearing and things like this, you know.
Terrible.
And I thought, you know, she don't even know how to, you know, she probably knows a few words, you know what I mean? But you think, like, by the time she's 6, she's going to pick up all these words too,
Oh,
these swear words,
yeah,
you know, quite quickly, you know. And then she goes to school, mixing with all the other children, you see.
Yeah.
And then that she teaches all those other children what she knows, you know
Of
what I mean?
course.
You know, and that's what I don't like about schools in a way, they all mix and merge
Yeah.
into one. But it's kind of good in a kind of way because children like learn a lot from it in a kind of way,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed my childhood, I did, you know, sort of like,
Me too.
you know, when I was a little boy, my nan used to look after me and my granddad, because my mum used to work a lot. And she said I was a bit different to the other children, because she had quite a few children there actually, you know, quite a lot young, my brother and my cousins, and there's, you know, lots of children around there, around my nan's house. And she said that I used to sort of like, rather than go and play with them, you know, and go out, I used to sort of hang around the garden, and I used to have birds landing on me and things like that. And I used to copy them, sort of singing and eating worms, you know, so she used to run out and rescue me.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, that's a child for you in a way, isn't it? Eating worms. Can you imagine that? You know.
Yeah. Lots of kids did that though, maybe when they were younger though, especially back in the day when kids used to be outdoors a lot, you know. I know kids are outdoors a lot less today in comparison to how, you know, the 80s and 90s, you know, and earlier, you know, as I said, the 2000 kids, you know, this generation of kids seem to be more indoors, you know, but you know.
I find this generation, has been playing computer games a lot.
Yeah, they got other interests that, you know, they tend to be outdoors less than kind of when we were young. We had to kind of go outdoors. Our parents used to let us go outside and play with our friends, and we used to have to kind of like use our imagination to come up with a game, and or we could just play a generic game. There would be football or cricket or something like that, or we could just pretend, so all sorts of stuff, hide and seek, and all these different games we used to play with as a kid, running around with your friends and just being silly and just having a laugh, and and making sure you're home by a certain time, like your parents said, otherwise you knew you'd be in trouble, and all the stuff you do when you're a kid,
I think it's a bit funny though, like children really should be playing all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like, go to school now and sit down, and then when the alarm goes off, you're allowed to go and play.
Yeah.
In a funny way,
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit broken them up.
Yeah.
And as I might have said it in a previous episode before, that, like for instance, my brother, who I love and I do get on with, but when I think about it, when I was at school, I never really saw them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you come home and you have dinner together maybe.
Yeah.
And then you go to bed.
Yeah.
And you never really see them. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I think the world's changed slowly in the last 1,000 years.
Okay.
In a big way. Like when I was younger, it used to not so many cars around. And you can think there's no computer.
Yeah.
Let's say when I was about 7, not many people had TVs then. Do you know what I mean? It's just coming in the kind of way people were starting to sort of buy colour TVs.
Colour televisions, yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
When I was about 5 or something like that, do you know what I mean? So it's all just started to happen in a kind of way. It's all these wires going everywhere, telephones as well, do you know what I mean? Spreading everywhere.
Yeah, all the electronics.
Yeah, and now we've got like
shitloads of electronics.
I've got the internet.
Yeah.
That is a wow, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Where you can speak to someone from the other side of the world in a split second in a kind of way.
Yeah.
And have a conversation like you're in the same room, almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like our world has changed. Like 200 years ago, more people were farming.
Yeah,
that's
true.
for sure.
Yeah.
You didn't have tractors.
Yeah. Had a horse and a plough.
There's more people sort of planting potatoes or digging them out. I mean, that's what my mum did when she was little, actually.
Okay.
She used to sort of like work on a farm picking potatoes.
Okay.
And there was a lot more farmer jobs back in her day.
Yeah.
And then when you look at my mum's mum, Anne, when she was a child, everyone was farming back then, do you know what I mean? There was no computers, no TV.
No.
For people to go home and watch.
Yeah.
It is a big change to what we're living
But if you think about it now today too, even in regards to farming and stuff like this, like obviously factories and artificial intelligence have taken over the jobs in the factories today. You've got all this machinery that we've created that it ended up eliminating a lot of jobs, and it was obviously had its pros and cons. It means that people could do less work and get a bigger yield and a bigger result, because they've got machinery to do the work for them and get it all done a lot faster and a lot more efficiently, and program it. But yeah.
Well, when the Industrial Revolution came and all that, I think like parents would sort of like had to go to work.
Yeah.
Get a job, earn a living.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And children at school. And then they're not seeing each other.
Yeah.
Week after week.
Got a bit of a disconnect.
Well, week after week, you get two days the weekend maybe, and that's it.
Yeah.
And might get a week off together once a year, whatever, but really generally, like families they're not really together now. Like they used to be.
Yeah.
A few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of changed where we're kind of like separated, it's evolved like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like electric's done it. You think like if electric wasn't invented, TV wouldn't be invented, radio, nothing. Lights, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just electric coming through, you know. We got the internet now because of that. You know. I think like I know I think we've spoken about it before.
Yeah.
But like if the electric went, we'd go back in time, I think.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah. And I remember growing up, as we talk about childhood and upbringing, I remember when I was growing up, like, I remember, because I grew up in the Caribbean for the first, well, I was born in the UK, and then at the age of two, almost three, we moved to the Caribbean, and I remember growing up out there, occasionally you would get, the power would go off, I mean, here and there, once or twice a month, you get a lot of power outage, it'd be a bad, it might be some bad rain, or it might be a storm, it might be during the, during the hurricane season, where you might be getting like a bad storm or something, and you get power outage, and I grew up with the, the kind of experiencing both kind of worlds in a way, like being able to, obviously having electricity, but when we did have a power outage, we also had like candles and, flashlights and ways of cooking food and etc.
You think like if the electric went, all the children would play their games anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, if electric went today, mate, it would shut down all operations. Could you imagine?
Yeah, Yeah.
If the electrical grid was destroyed today in the UK, just say the UK, so for example, mate, today, and it took approximately another 3 months for them to rebuild a new one. Could you imagine?
I think they've constantly been working on it for year after year.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They don't stop working on it, and I think if something goes wrong, like in here, we have a power cut, they come straight away. Fix it.
I fix it.
Within hours.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
But not only that, but we've got natural renewable energy today as well. Got all these wind turbines and all these different things that we are using to harvest kind of energy every single day.
I think like
But I sometimes it's funny though, because I remember growing up, like it would be you'd quite enjoy it being young and kind of like the power's gone out and it's all dark and now you've got to light candles, and it was quite like, I wouldn't say enjoyable as a kid, but it was a different experience, if you see what I mean, if you get what I mean. Like every now and again when it would happen, it'd be like, oh yeah, want to wrap.
Depends. I think it affects you. Yeah. Depending on, me, I don't play games.
Yeah.
Really, I used to when they first come out. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But like, if the electric does go, which it did do here.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, yeah. I really get a little bit lonely in life, Be honest with you, I've got no internet.
Yeah.
I can't play my music, or I can't make music, or I can't see anything on my camera, see any photographs, it's all electronic. Like, you think about it, and you think like if the electric really did go for good, they wanted to stop it for some reason, because it is ruining the world.
Yeah.
Right, and it did stop. It would change the world completely. We're living in a very electric world today, I think, a lot of people rely on it.
Yeah.
I personally do quite love the electric world. You think like man is the only person, the only animal or species or creature that's invented it, or not invented it, discovered it, sorry, electric. I think it's even changing the upbringing of our children in a kind of way, having the internet here.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It exists now, the internet.
Yeah.
And your children can get onto it now and learn from it.
That's why even young kids today are so technologically advanced when it comes to like technology, because they're kind of born and grew up with it, if you see what I mean. Like, my son sometimes can do things on the laptop that I didn't know how to do, if you see what I mean, already, because like, he's just like a sponge, and he just learns every day. And he's also at school, he also has one of his classes is technology and something else, where they learn all about technology and the different devices and how you use them and how you do this and do that and, you know, X, Y, Z, you know.
They say like the first few years of your life, like
yeah.
when you're 3, you learn more than you ever do.
Well, I think, I think they said the first 7 years, apparently the first 7 years are very critical.
Yeah.
You know, well, all years are critical, but they said the first 7 years, you know, those first 7 years are really critical, and, you know, they're like a sponge at that age, where they just, you know, they learn everything, they pick up everything, you know, they just, you know, yeah. But like you said, going back to like, you know, childhood, I say I had quite a good childhood, you know, I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed my childhood, don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't ideal, but I still enjoyed my childhood, you know, made the most of it, no matter where, you know, we moved around quite a lot, even though we were living in the Caribbean, we moved around quite a lot, you know, we were renting, you know, my mum was renting at the time, and, you know, looking after me and my 2 sisters by herself, you know, and depending on where she was working or whatever the case may be, we moved around quite a lot, you know, so no matter where we were, I would always try to kind of like make friends and kind of like just have fun and, you know, just do what you do as a child, you know, ride your bicycle around, or, you know, play football, or play sports, or, you know, back in the day too, you also had like the cap guns and stuff like this, you used to run around pretending to be, you know, cops and robbers and all this type of shit as you do when you're kids, you know, just having fun. But yeah, I remember even though I moved around quite a lot, like I remember still enjoying my childhood. Like it's kind of, you know, it did affect, like, obviously, like when you first, obviously if you're living somewhere for like a few years as a child and you make friends with people, and then obviously after a few years you move, then, you know, you might not see that person as often again, you know, because you're young, you're still quite young, so you might not end up seeing that person quite, you know, too often, you know. So then you move somewhere else, you've got to make friends again, if you see what I mean. Move to a different area, if you see what I mean. You've got to make friends again and kind of, you know, get to know the neighbourhood you're living in and the people, and, you know. And there's a lot of things in my childhood, you know, like, you know, that, you know, like you said, sometimes, you know, trauma and, you know, pain, you know, can when you're young, it can hurt you a bit, but, you know, it makes you stronger, you know. And I think because of my childhood and everything, all the things that I went through, like, it made me grow up very, 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 very quickly. Made me understood the world very, very quickly from a young age. Made me kind of understand, you know, how hard the world is, and, you know, how fucked up the world can be as well. You know, so
I think, like, in a kind of way, it's good having a hard life, you know.
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, it's no good having an easy life, is
No.
it? Where your parents have sort of putting cotton wool on the walls and all that, and guarding you from the reality of the real world. You know. And telling you fairy tale stories all your life, you know, and telling you lies.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's best to sort of, like, you know, this is the world we're living in there.
Yeah.
And it is getting, like, I noticed every decade that goes by, it's getting noisier. I don't know why that is, you know. I think there's, I don't know whether it's because the engines are getting more modern, or, you know, on these motorbikes or whatever, you know. I mean, like, for instance, like, there's a lot of lorries now that's got extra alarms on them, and they tell you whether they're turning left or right, you know, with extra warning signs and all this, you know.
Yeah.
And I see this lady knocked over, sort of like not long ago, and this lorry, I didn't actually see it, but I was nearby, do you know what I mean? And she was going through the green light for a Pelican crossing.
Oh, shit.
And the lorry turned round quite fast. And it said, "I'm turning right," you know, the variable, you know, I heard it. And still she got knocked over. It hit her Zimmer frame and killed her. And she, you know, went underneath the lorry, do you know what I mean? That's the end of her life. You know, and she was in the paper the next day, and she's got a young...
Well, I remember when it happened, because I remember I was coming around to see you that day, actually. I remember I was coming around to see you, and you know, it happened on, you know, when I was coming out, I saw that it was all, you know, loads of police, and it was all cordoned off, and the truck was still there, so I thought something had happened, you know, and obviously when I come around here, you told me about it, you know.
That's right, but, you know, you think, like, all these alarms that, you know, even shops, they got alarms, and even, like, these car locks and all this. They got little bleeps on them, all this, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite getting noisier this world. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Not just noisier, it's different.
Yeah.
Where people don't care as much, I feel, you know, they're uncompassionate completely. No compassionate.
Cold-hearted.
Well, that's what I say. I said it last week, I think, in the episode, that there's no compassion, you know, taught in schools. You know, not taught. Compassion is love. You know, I think it's one of the most important things in life, really. You know, I think like wisdom, you know, compassion is wisdom in a funny way.
Yeah.
And empathy.
Yeah.
You know, and empathy, you're not born with it or anything. You know, it's something. It's an ability. Do you see what I mean? You know, something that you must sort of kind of study and understand. You know, and I think you only get empathy in life when you've been hurt so much. You know, you won't get any empathy if you're not being hurt, I don't feel.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? Where you come from?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like my dad used to really quite upset me because he kind of rejected me as a child.
Yeah.
You know, and a child doesn't like being rejected.
Of course, yeah.
And that's really important, you know, rejection. And, you know, and, like I say, mothers and fathers, they go to work. That's rejection. You know, a child needs their mother and father with them all times, you know, just in case, you know. But, you know, we're living in a kind of different world, do you know what I mean? We're sent to work, we're sent to school and sent to do this.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of like we're kind of being robbed from our realities.
Of course, yeah.
If you see what I mean.
All being separated every single day, apart from the weekend, you know, apart from Saturday, Sunday.
In a kind of way, you know, when you come home from school, when your mum comes home from work, whatever, your dad, and you're there, you kind of look forward to seeing each other again.
Of course.
So you got that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, you have got to like look at different sides of things, I think, you know. But I think like at the end of the day, personally, I think like schools are kind of unnatural. They're invented, you know, and they take away crucial family bonds.
Yeah.
You know, you can lose your bonds with your baby straight away. Some mothers do. They've got no bond as soon as the baby